Oh, good.
Beautiful.
Can I go like this? Yes. So am I supposed to look at you?
I guess
Or
talk to me.
at the...
You can talk to me.
Hello.
Yeah, you and
Hello,
Michelle.
Gala audience.
Hello, Gala.
Thank you for purchasing a ticket.
And we're just mostly looking for stories of your experiences with 10,000 Things. So,
Okay.
Oh, and the things that we've been through.
You in a video. Oh my God.
so we talk about that and just talk to Michelle, not to me, but the things that we've been through.
Yeah, what comes to mind?
For the past 20 years in the Twin Cities, 10,000 Things has been taking these big stories of theater, using the best actors around, to audiences who have never seen theater before, in many cases. What's always struck me so much about 10,000 Things is how much we all get back from our audiences.
You know, every show you're sitting there and you're watching the group of people sitting in a circle, and I'm always nervous, and you're always nervous to get started, and they're waiting, and then I'd step on, and because it was direct address, I would look them in the eye and say, what do you do when you're not sure? And I had the same experience every time, just that even the slightest response from them at all was so shocking to me, and I always wanted to go, you know, right? You know, it's right. It's when you're not sure, it is hard.
In that script, in the 7, Tydeus has this beautiful moment where Polynices decides that he's going to leave him, and Will Powers gives him the song that is just the soul-wrenching song that he gets to sing at him. I remember there was a show that we did where I finished that number not knowing how it was going to go, never knowing how it was going to receive, or having any expectations or anticipation with that, but hearing people then say, oh, you better not leave him. You're not going anywhere. And I was like, okay, now they're on board, now we're here together, and for the rest of the play, I just felt them lift Tydeus up every time that he came on stage.
And then the guard in the corner, this like big, beefy, straight-faced guard, cracks, he laughs, and the ladies see that, and then they laugh even more, and you know, and the show stops, and it's really just about the event of laughing at not a very sophisticated joke. But apparently, afterward, I think you got the feedback that the relationship between the guard and the prisoners was a little different, because they had all been in the room laughing together, and he had kind of broken out of his shell.
I remember early on at one of the first performances, you know, you're never sure how a play is going to be received. I think it was one of the very first ones. It was at a women's shelter, and they seemed to really like it, which was great. And then after, I remember being in the restroom, like the public restroom there, and there was a woman just sobbing in the bathroom, and her friend kind of came up to me and said, she has just left a very bad domestic situation. The play kind of reminded her a little bit of that, but then also bolstered her decision to get out of that and kind of encouraged her. And she's just kind of really overwhelmed right now with what she just sat through, and really grateful.
We were performing at Boys Totem Town. You know, you've got, 13 to 17-year-old young men in a detention facility that are very hesitant to show any emotion in front of their peers at all. Towards the end of the play, Vladimir's, in a nutshell, saying, I just wish someone would see me. And I felt his hand touch my arm. And I looked to the side, and there was this 14, 15-year-old boy, tears running down his face. And he just said, I see you. I see you. He needed to tell me. And I glanced around, and there was no judgment from his peers. There was not necessarily a sense of them being in the same place he was, but they got it. And that moment, I went, this is why this has value. This is a unique, where a fat middle-aged white woman and a 15-year-old Latino boy who had never crossed paths connected and shared something, and that changed the way I looked at theater from there on.
What happens to me now is I start imagining, when I sit down to work on a play, all the different audiences we're going to be performing for. Really, every kind of human being you could imagine. And I start looking at the play through all the different lenses of their perspectives, and it just suddenly presents me with this array of creative choices that I wouldn't ever have come up with if I hadn't known they were going to be in my audience.
All your choices now are built around this idea of who's going to watch. And those choices, I feel, are actually should be the choices that you should make with every play.
You can never assume anything about your audience. And that is on one hand terrifying, and on the other hand also exhilarating. And so you can't assume that the audience will sit and stay quiet and not interrupt you during your scene. You can't assume that somebody won't start guffawing with great laughter in the middle of one of your tragic monologues. You can't assume that people are interested in what you have to say.
Well, working with 10,000 Things, you have to be brave. You have to be really brave because you're putting yourself into totally unknown situations where you are right there. You can see the people. You can hear if they think you're funny. You can hear if they don't think you're funny. You have to be truthful because they have a very high, like, kind of bullshit meter, I think. So you have to be more brave and more honest.
You're experiencing the realness around you. It's part of the theater. And the choices that you've made, the choices that 10,000 Things have made in casting and so forth, I think it makes it matter because we're not just watching someone else do something that from a long time ago that we've never seen.
And you always cast people in things that make the audience connect in a completely different way, as well as giving an actor an opportunity to stretch in a way that they never thought of.
You know, I have that running joke with you of, like, I won't go on stage unless there's an Asian person in the audience. And sometimes there are. It's such a powerful experience for me, and I see it in them because they become very surprised to see someone who is Asian on stage that seems to have a life.
It makes it more about us. And really, it's kind of interesting watching things that are about us, the truth of the matter. I will tell you, everyone gets much more out of it when the world participates.
I think what all theater artists try to do is fundamentally step into somebody else's shoes. Imagine what it would be like to be somebody else. With 10,000 Things, that action is multiplied 100-fold because we also find ourselves stepping into the lives of male inmates, or we find ourselves stepping into the shoes of women in a chemical dependency treatment center. And that, as a theater artist, is an incredible gift.
It's the immediacy and the intimacy of 10,000 Things that I realize, oh, that's why I do it, is I want to have something to do with you. And I want to have something to do with you. And I want to have something to do with you. And I can do it better if I can see you, as opposed to imagining, who is this person in the dark?
It's almost like 10,000 Things is reminding everybody of the core of theater and why it needs to happen.
If you want that as part of your community, if you want that kind of art and that kind of interaction with audience and performer, and if you want those colors in your neighborhood, and you want that kind of service to other social service groups, then you support this company. If that's what you want in your life, then this is a really great place to get it.